And I tell this guy, I've been around the block a few times, and this is the best limoncello I had in my life. And when I said best, I might have said it a little bit too loud. All the other tables turned around to look, and everybody looked at the guy that made it. And I said, and he's the guy who made all limoncello. All of you. Stand up, give him a salute. And they stood up. And Carlo said, let's get out of here, Joe.
Well, what happened?
2 bottles later.
Hello, and welcome to Along the Way Life's Journey. I'm your host, Carl Buccellato. Let's get the next journey started. I've said many times that I created this podcast to bring forth guests who have motivating and inspiring stories, both in their own lives and as told to others. Well, my guest today is a man I have known all his life, my brother, Giuseppe Buccellato, who I affectionately call Joe. Like myself, Joe was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, served in the United States Army, married and raised 2 children. He has held many jobs throughout his life: truck driver, top Toyota car salesman on Long Island, estate grounds manager, and finally, in his retirement, as chaplain of a volunteer organization called SmileFaith, a nonprofit organization providing veterans with needed dental care and services. As chaplain, Joe continues to use his great storytelling talents to comfort and support veterans in need. Joe has been a story and joke teller all his life. So you may say he has been in training for this new role since he got his first laughs years ago, and he realized he could make people smile and feel happy. I'm proud to welcome a very funny and faith-filled man, my brother, Joe. Okay, Joe, how are you today?
Oh, I'm fine. I'm so happy that you have me on your show, and it's something that I was always so proud of you for putting together, because it's very inspiring. And you even had our baby sister, Joni and James, Pastor James, on your show, and I was so proud to see them as they went through their time of Jesus to be where they are right now.
Yeah, they do a fine job. They're very dedicated people.
They do. I'm doing great.
Yeah. So, we're going to talk a little bit about when we were growing up, when we were young, and then we'll chat about some other things. We'll get into the Chaplain things that you're doing, and I'll give you a chance to tell some stories, which you're always great at.
Well, I don't know. See, a lot of people.
You've been making me laugh over one joke for 40 years, and I don't think it's ever going to stop. So
that's the idea.
The cheese.
Nothing works. Why change it? You know what I mean?
That's right.
It's Billy Crystal. He'll tell you. You know what I mean? But the main thing is you got to realize everybody has a path. You say I was a comic all these years. I'm sure I didn't put myself on that path. Like you did so many things as well, Carlo. For me to be on your show, it's a deep honor in my part, because watching you go through all your successes and the book you wrote, unbelievable. It just took too long for you to write that book. You should have wrote that book, at least, in my opinion, at least 20 years earlier, because it was so you then. I know that it finally came out of you. And I know you had your great assistance of your wife, who helps you every day finding out that it should have been done sooner. And you did it sooner, so now it was on.
I just wasn't quite ready to be so transparent and reveal all those things 20 years ago. It took more healing for me to get to the point where I was willing to make those things known. But thank you very much for that. So let's just talk a little bit. When we were growing up as young kids, we grew up in Brooklyn. We were surrounded by a big Italian family, both sides. Our dad's side and our mom's side, both sides of the family came from Sicily. And so we were raised with certain traditions and values that were pretty much old country. We believe in certain things that a lot of people in America today have unfortunately forgotten, but we believe in things like respect. And people will notice from time to time, I'll call you Don Giuseppe, and you'll call me
Don Carlo.
Okay. Now, why?
I always call you Don Carlo, even though the name of your show is Carl Buccellato. Actually, this man's name, if everybody wants to know it, is Carlo Andrew Buccellato.
That's
and
correct.
Andrew comes from our Uncle Andy, our father's one of his kid brothers, who was an inspiration to us. And not only us, even Richard and Victor, all us four guys are the only four left in our generation of the Buccellato roots. Actually, we're top shelf people in this whole family.
Yeah.
So we want us all to know that if it wasn't for the family before us, we would never be doing what we're doing now.
Right.
And thank God for our forefathers, because they showed us the difference between right and wrong.
Right.
And we know today in this world, there's a lot of things going wrong, and we can see it. A lot of people are fed up with what's going on in the United States today.
Right.
And I don't want to get too much into that, because then I'll have to have my close confidant, Gus Bilirakis, who is our congressman and cares so much for us veterans. You talk about me being a veteran. I'll tell you one thing. I am so proud of a man named Tom Lane and Dr. Mike O'Connor that put this together for us guys that can't go to a dentist and spend $5, $10, $20, $30,000 when they say, well, the veterans need help. Well, Tom was actually in two branches of the service. He was also in the Air Force besides the Army. So he knows, and that he became a chaplain himself. And he started this with the grace of God. And Mike jumped aboard, and everybody else saw how good it is for the veterans. Because I'll tell you, I'm a veteran. They'll give me open heart surgery, but they won't take a tooth out of your mouth unless you get 100% disability. Even though I had shattered arm and all rods put in there and everything else, they don't care about that. They don't realize that the mouth is so important to a human body, just like a heart that's beating.
Yeah, yeah.
I will get into that.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit, since you're starting to talk about SmileFaith. How big is the organization and how expansive is it? I know you have it in Western Florida, but where else is it?
Well, there is a branch in Kentucky, but right now the main thing is to help. Since I live in Newport Richey, I go to the VA in Newport Richey, and now Gus Bilirakis had a new facility made for us guys, so we don't have to travel 40 miles away to Tampa to John Haley, so we could have something for the people near us. Right. And I'm so proud of Gus for doing that. He is an unbelievable congressman. And he was really recognized by our Donald Trump. How could you get more than that? So anyway, I was very proud of Gus. But anyway, being a veteran and working for all that and helping the veterans, I do this. When they come in, guys have to have a tooth pull, and they're a little older than me. They might be, us, we were born in the early 40s. Some guys are born in the end of the 30s and whatever. And they really are afraid of having a tooth pulled or whatever. And they need to be comforted in some way. And you got to understand, I'm there, and they see that I'm a veteran as well, and they know that they're a veteran. So we talk. We talk about this and that, or when did you serve, or what did this and that. And that's how you try to calm them down, and you gracefully tell them about God. Right. And they believe that in God, and you ask them to accept God in their lives, because God died on the cross for all of our sins. Right. And all we really want to know now is this: for God to help us, to come into our lives, to please show us more, to how to learn more about you. Have you ever in our everyday walk? That's why, if you notice, I have a card here. It says this. Could you see that card?
Yeah.
And it's
somebody loves you. His name is Jesus.
And then this is the reason for that card.
Right.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yes, that is.
So all I have to do is be, like you said, I help these people out. So I love God. I pray every day. But right now, before we do anything, even if I only have so much time left, I don't want to forget to say my prayer to our Father God for sending us Jesus. He sent us Jesus when we needed him the most. And you know what? God was so good to everybody. You think about what happened to, for instance, Joshua. When Moses died, what did Joshua do? He fell to the ground. He couldn't take people across the Jordan River to the promised land. God said, don't worry. I give you strength and courage, and I will be with you.
Right.
Be dismayed. Oh, I won't get into that, but I'm so grateful.
I know that it says more times in the Bible, fear not, than anything else. And I think that's the resounding message for me, is always that when I think life gets too oppressive, when I think things are struggling and too difficult for me to handle, when I think people are abandoning me or avoiding me. I only have to go to those few words that my loving God says to me, fear not. And it strengthens me and it gives me courage and it allows me to go forward. So let's talk, and I know you agree with that. So let's talk a little bit. When we were kids, growing up in that big, giant Italian family.
Oh, what a great time we had.
It was so much fun. And I remember, if I were to talk about the one striking thing that is so real in my mind right now, okay? It's Christmas Eve dinner. The fishes of the family all coming together for all the, we'd go to Grandpa's house or Uncle Jim's house, and we'd be 30, 40 people in a room, with tables overlapping, and we'd eat fish from the 7 seas on Christmas Eve. And
bacala hanging in the kitchen.
Bacala hanging to dry,
Remember when Dad used to take us to Steeplechase Pier, and we used to pick the whiteys at night?
Yeah.
That was beautiful time.
Yeah.
Remember when we were kids and we were playing with the Fiello brothers, Ronnie and Fiello? Did you ever tell the people that story?
No, I haven't told them. That's your story. You tell the story.
It's an original. Can I come briefly?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
We were about 8 years old. Carlos 2 years older, so he was about 10. And this Fiello boy, Ronnie, well, he was younger than Junior. Junior was named after Artie, his father. But anyway, Ronnie was so silly. He put a BB in his ear and then broke a stick off a branch in the schoolyard, and he's shivering it in his ear, thinking that it's going to come out the other side, pounding his head. Well, to tell you, his head grew up like a sumo wrestler. So my mom and Peggy Fiello, the mother, and Carlo and all of us went to the hospital. And the doctor says, how stupid could a person be? And Peggy said right off the bat, Ronnie, here he is. I mean, stupid with that. Well, anyway, that BB finally got sucked out of his head. It's shrunken, but it was a real known thing in our area because we actually used to walk to St. Finbar's Church. So it was like on the billboard there all the way around about this BB that was shoved in this. And what happened? Ronnie had to autograph that BB. Well, that BB today, I had it brought to you from the Smithsonian Institute. And in the bed there is the BB. And if you can see the BB, there's his autograph.
You prepared for this, didn't you?
Yeah, of 1954. We all saw him autograph. So this goes back to, it's a very important thing. And this month, someone did back. So I have it under lock and key. I got 2 guards waiting near the door to transport me back there.
So Joe, this is just a small sample for people to understand that when you get a thought, a humorous thought, you embellish it and it becomes something very funny. So I want you to just tell us a little bit for a few minutes. Yeah. Tell us about your old friend, Rudy. I made a video about that years ago and I posted it, but not many people saw it. So you tell us about your old friend, Rudy.
Rudy, I tell you, Rudy was known all over the neighborhood in Brooklyn at that time, and he was on the bench waiting for a bus. And as he was waiting for the bus, a doctor, which his doctor, sat next to him. And the doctor says, well, where you going, Rudy? He says, I'm going downtown to see Mama. He says, good. But as they were talking, the doctor and Rudy, everything that passed, cars, motorcycle, buses, police cars, fire engines, all were waving. Hi, Rudy. How you doing, Rudy? The doc looked at Rudy, says, Rudy, what are you doing on this neighborhood? You're not taking numbers or doing something wrong, are you? He says, no, I know everybody. He says, well, you can't know everybody. He says, name somebody you think you know, I think that you should not know. He said, well, how about the mayor? And at that time, it was Mayor Koch in New York City. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but that's how it was. So Rudy said, well, the doctor was insulted, called the cab. They got in the cab and they went to Gracie Mansion to see Mayor Koch. And he came out, the mayor hugged Rudy. Oh, Rudy, oh my God, unbelievable, Rudy. He was so happy. So they got back into the cab to go back to the corner to wait for the bus. He said, Doc, you see, you spent this money for nothing. He says, you didn't spend it for nothing, Rudy. He says, well, I told you I know everybody. He says, you can't know everybody. He says, name somebody you think I don't know. He said, how about movie stars? He said, I know every movie star. He said, how about at the time, Burt Reynolds? Wow, how big was that? Let's go to Hollywood. Makes the cab go to the airport. And after the airport, they go all the way to Hollywood. And they land and they go over to Bert's door. And he knocks on the door. Bart opens the door. Rudy, how you doing, baby? I haven't seen you. Kissing him and hugging him and everything. Unbelievable. The doc is insulted. They're in the cab going back to the airport to go back home. And the doc says, it's impossible. He said, well, doc, you're spending all this money. Please calm down. He says, they can't know everybody. So the doc says, I know one guy you don't know. And Rudy says, who could that be? He says, the Pope. He says, you got to be kidding me. The Pope? He says, me and the Pope are like this. We love each other. You kid, take us to the airport. We're going to Alitalia. We're going to Rome right now. So the land, they go to Rome. They're walking through the gates. Rudy stops the doctor for 1 minute and says, hey, doc, not for nothing. I know you're important in New York, but over here, you can't just walk in and get on the balcony up that balcony up there. I'll bring out the Pope, me and on the balcony, and you could just stand here. He says, Rudy, if you could go up there, stop the Pope from doing anything he's doing to bring him on the balcony, I believe you know everybody. Stay here, doc. And he runs upstairs. Balcony doors open, and the Pope is kissing Rudy on his head. And he looks down, Rudy, to see if the doctor's seeing it. The doctor's flat on the ground. And people are near him going like this. 1 minute, Pope, he runs down, he goes to the doc. Doc, don't die on me, please, don't die on me. He's, all right, I'm good, doc, I'm good, Rudy. He says, sure, you saw me up there with the Pope. That's why you fainted. He says, that's not why I fainted, Rudy. He said, these two Japanese guys came with cameras. One guy looked at the other guy and said, who's that guy with Rudy?
All right. Now, I've been hearing this story for 40 years. It always makes me laugh. But now, as Paul Harvey used to say, here's the rest of the story. A few years ago, my brother and I had the great fortune of traveling, just the two of us, and spending a few weeks in Italy. And we wandered all over Italy. We had the greatest time. We were in Sicily, where our family lives. We went up to the Temple of Segesta on the top of the hill in Sicily, overlooking Castellammare del Golfo, where our family came from. And the temple was built by the Greeks 3,000 years ago. And it overlooks the Buccellato Valley, which King Ferdinand gave to Diego Buccellato, our distant great-grandfather, who was a shipbuilder. And he created an Almana for us. So he gave him the land. And our relatives still live there. The Buccellato still occupy that land. Well, anyway, we were wandering all over Italy, and we went to Rome. So there we were in Rome, in the Vatican in Rome. And my brother and I are standing online waiting to go into the Vatican. And as we're walking, I noticed this seal on the floor. So I say to my brother with a wink, that's the balcony. And he immediately goes into the routine. Immediately, he knows what I'm talking about. So you take over. What happened?
Well, that was a clue for me to take over. So the people do not know my brother and I, but my brother knows how I'm going to act with the strangers and make sure that they know who we are. You see, it's not who you know in life. It's who knows you. That's what it's...
So...
That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. And people got to realize that. So at the spot, I saw people stepping back. And some of those people had to leave their shoes there because today, those shoes they're in a museum somewhere. And I got news for you. You got to pay to go see the shoes from the bottom.
Okay, so the shoes he's talking about, there were people all around us, from every possible nation.
And I said, don't look at
every possible language.
What's that stuff? That's where the dock fell.
That's where the dock fell. Right there, on that spot, on that circular spot is where the dock fell. So
Rudy thought that's where the dock died.
Yeah. So Joe mentions Rudy. So this lady, this German lady with a family to my side, taps me on the shoulder. She says, my son's name is Rudy too.
And that was it. It was a generation from the Rudy that was the person in the story. And anyway, everybody had a great laugh at that.
So when the crowd started to go forward, to go into the Vatican, it was like the parting of the seas. No one would step on that plaque on the floor. It was like sacrilege if somebody put a foot on there, because that's where Rudy and the doc were. So they went. And I'm thinking to myself, if they only knew there's no such thing, it's just Joe's joke.
So when we got to the entrance, I told one of the guards there, the guards for the palace, that we were going into the Vatican. And I said, you got to get some ropes to cover that up. So people are stepping on that step. He says, where, what, how, where, what? He didn't know what I was talking about.
And
but I did that day walk 386 steps to the top of the cupola and leave a picture of our sister Maria, up there behind a broken brick. And I remember where that is. So someday, Carlo, when we get old.
Yeah. If they take me up with a helicopter, I'll make it. Otherwise, there's no climbing those steps.
We'll go and see the spot, and we'll go up into the Vatican.
And what Joe is talking about, unfortunately, a couple of years before we took this trip, we lost our youngest sister, Maria, who was only 39 at the time, and she succumbed to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And so we went there almost like a pilgrimage to remember her and pray at the Vatican. I mean, that's not why we were in Italy. We were in Italy to eat a lot of pasta and drink a lot of wine, which we did every day.
Let me tell you a story about limoncello. See, Carlo told me, Joe, you never tried limoncello. So he took me to this place in Sorrento. First, it was a beautiful place we went to eat called Caruso's. Caruso's was an excellent, fantastic restaurant. And we were there with a couple that Carlo knew from the past, from previous people. And this other guy, Sawidu, I think his name was, or something like that. He was so into it. So as we were having dinner, the four of us, there was a couple on the other side of the table. And they were reaching and holding their hands and showing little kisses at each other. So he looked at me, I looked at him, I figured, let's make everybody laugh. So his wife was there, Carla was there. And we were going, yeah, nice. And everybody was laughing. Then I noticed there was a picture on the wall that was crooked.
Enrico Caruso, the original opera singer.
And Caruso's #1 restaurant, very elegant place, top shelf. You had to have a jacket to walk in there. Really nice place. And I noticed that. So everybody around there were eating and everybody was so proper and everything. And here I was. Before everything, I got up. I got a chair from an empty table, put it there, stood on the chair, and straightened out the picture. Well, I don't know if everybody was going to be happy about that, but it made me happy and made my brother happy because I was facing the picture. And I didn't want to eat that place. The guy came over, he bought us drinks, did he? He bought us appetizers or whatever he did. And we had a great time there. And then Carlos said, well, let's just go for a couple of shots of limoncello. I know this guy, he makes limoncello, and we went to his restaurant. Carlo told me, Joe, please don't tell this guy this limoncello was good. Please, we got to get out of here. Because we had Guy Don, who was touring with us, and actually our chauffeur with the car that Carlo got for us, so we could go from here to there, waiting. We could see him waiting in the road where the cops are telling him to move, and we're sitting there. So Carlo wanted us to get out of there quick. Just once, we had to have one limoncello with this guy. It was Carlo's friend. He owned the restaurant. Guy comes with me, the limoncello, and they say, Giuseppe, how's the limoncello? Now, I know Carlo's giving me the eyes. I know those eyes all my life. And he's trying to tell me, Joe, don't do it. Don't do it, please. Don't do it. Please don't do it. And I said to the guy, let me taste this. And I'm supposed to say, it's just good. So I tasted, look around, and I tell this guy, I've been around the block a few times, and this is the best limoncello I had in my life. And when I said best, I might have said it a little bit too loud. All the other tables turned around to look. And everybody looked at the guy that made it. And I said, and he's the guy who made our limoncello. All of you. Stand up. Give him a salute. And they stood up. And Carlos said, let's get out of here, Joe.
Well, what happened?
2 bottles later, when Guy Don had to come out of the limousine to drink one at a time, our legs were numb. They put us in the back car, and then he drove us up to a hill in somewhere in the mountains near Pascano. And we went to this restaurant. They told me, Joe, tell this lady that this is good food.
I was in Ravello.
Yes.
That was in Ravello.
Right. and the Amalfi Mountains. He takes me. I don't know. I'm a kid from Brooklyn. What do I know? But he takes me up there and he tells me, don't tell this woman that you like this food. The guy Don told me, Joe, Giuseppe, please play a little lower, lay a little lower. I said, I promise, guys, we'll eat, we'll get in there, and we'll go. We eat, and I'm tasting the food. I told the woman, which had hair, not only under her arm,
but big knitting needle.
Yeah, sticking out of her ears. I told her, oh, senora, not for nothing. And people were in the restaurant, of course, and my big loud mouth, which we can't control. I don't know why. I told her this, I'm here today because I'm your future brother-in-law. My brother wants to marry you and work with you in the kitchen. And she worked great. They were chasing each other around the table. Everybody was laughing.
So she says to me,
but we didn't make Guy Don drink more than one glass of wine because he
had to drive.
He had to get the car.
So she says to me, I know he's a liar. You just want my food for nothing. I said, yes, that's right.
Remember that? Guy Don was laughing so much that day. Remember? We had so many, and we still will. That's why, Carlo, when we get older, we might plan a trip again. Another maybe 10, 15 years from now.
You never know.
You never know. And we might go there the same places and call Guy Don. I hope he's still old enough to drive because he was getting...
I just spoke to him the other day on the phone.
Still fit?
Yeah, sure.
Right.
Well, he's much younger than us, Joe.
I know.
Yeah, he's much younger. He's only 52 years old, so he's much younger than us.
Joseph, my son just turned 52. Yeah. What a great kid. Did I tell you about the card he sent me?
No.
I have to mention Joseph, my son Joseph. And I have to say, he gave me a Christmas card, and my birthday's in December. So Christmas and birthday all in one card. And he said, I have to say, Dad, that you were the best father anybody could ever have. You didn't only give me a lot of your love and wisdom, but you gave me your discipline, which I definitely needed it, and I realize it now. And it just opened me up. Now, that card is on my desk that I look at every day. I can't put that card away. Can't put that card away. And it's something that goes right to the heart, and we all need that. Because we all, some days, sooner or later, we find it distant to be with our children because, of course, they have their own life, their own this, their own that, but they don't have the same beliefs that we try to raise them with.
Yeah.
And that hurts me, and I can't do nothing about it. You know, I can't do nothing about it. But I have to say, being Carlo's brother, I was a very fortunate guy. I mean, I never had a lot of luxuries, but I never was really hungry. You understand what I mean? I was really more content about having the grace of God be with me and thanking me and having angels sent to me to follow me. Because I got news for you. I almost brought it over many times. And I knew it was the grace of God had people protecting me. I was talking to my younger cousin, Richard, the other day for Father's Day. I wished him Father. He was telling me about Uncle Andrew. Our Uncle Andrew, my father and Richard's father were brothers. So Uncle Andrew was the other brother, Uncle Andrew. So he was always on Richard's shoulder, he said. I never did anything without Uncle Andrew there for me. And I believe Richard really believed that in his heart because he was really so sincere about that. And that's how I feel about our Uncle James. I can never forget our Uncle James. He was a man of integrity. He got us on the straight road. And here's a story about Uncle James. We were in Brooklyn. Ebbets Field was there. The Dodgers were there. He loved to play ball. Our dad couldn't take us to baseball games. Uncle James took us, me, well, let's put it in order. Carlo, Victor, me, and Richard. That's how we were born. And in the Italian family, you go from the oldest down because you have to show respect. Because our grandfather always taught us that respect is the most important thing in the world. And I remember my grandfather telling us that the word kindness was so important too. And we used to say, yeah, no, he says, think about it, he told us once. We were together, me, Carlo, Richard, and Victor somewhere, and he told us, oh, I know, on his porch. We used to have his De Nobili cigars drying out from Sambucas on top of it. And he told us, he says, kindness, if you think about it, if somebody was deaf, they can't hear a word you're saying, but just by your emotions or your niceness, they can see you're a kind person. So they want to. They want to be near you. Now, think of a blind person. Can't even see you. Can't even know. All I can do is hear you. Your soft, your tenderness, your compassion, your caring in your voice makes me know you're a kind person. If you ever noticed, a blind person only goes over to find out what people look like when they go like this with their face. And I know a lot of you saw that in your lifetime, a blind person going to somebody and going like this to see what they look like. Well, I got news for you. They'll never go to an angry or mean person to see what they look like because they don't want to know what those people look like. So if you're not kind, even to deaf or blind or everybody, you're not living the life that God wants us to live. And I do this to a lot of people, especially at SmileFaith. Like I say, I got to make them know that they did what they did for us veterans and they're still doing it. And I'm very proud of them. And I'm proud of a lot of people in my lifetime that I have to mention because they'll probably listen to this and people that know them will listen to this. You know, my friend Micah Kiedis, he's a very important man, not because he was a very important lawyer in our system, helping people, honest people, but he had a heart of gold. My friend Bobby Palermo only sings now for God. He will not ever sing anymore other than giving people the spirit of God.
And people should know Bobby was part of the Legends group that traveled all over the United States. So he was a very popular man. Yeah.
He was #1 Neil Diamond impersonator that when he was doing Vegas, Neil Diamond's mother went to Bobby, this is a true story, and told him, "You sound better than my son." And that's what he told him. And Bobby is not a guy to lie. You see, there's no, you know what I mean? You can't buy Bobby. Yeah. He's another guy, you know, he came from Brooklyn. He's a Sicilian. His name is Palermo, one town up the Castello d'Amato Golfo, the way we come from. It's amazing how people gravitate together. But I tell you what I see in the world today, I mean, it bothers me. People are getting annoyed and they're getting out of hand about what's going on in the world today, the crisis with the, you know, the fuel, the gas, the baby food, and all the stuff that shouldn't be happening to the United States of America. And I know one thing, and I talked to Gus Bilirakis, and he goes to Washington. When you say you need somebody to help us talk about what's going on in the country, I know this is not the show to talk about that, but we got to realize we all are #1 people for the American flag. When we see the American flag, we don't just see a flag. We see the United States of America. And that's so important, especially not only a veteran, but everybody that belongs in America. I mean, our ancestors were born in other countries, but they came and be citizens. They came legally and be citizens for our country. And I'm so proud to have more people. Like, I'm a Legionnaire. I belong to the American Legion. I could have worn my shirt, my this and that, but I wear this, that my friend, he's a commissioner. He gave me this. It's a cross with the flag inside it. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, Jack Mariano is our commissioner. And we have so many nice people around here helping the veterans that care and the people that are not even veterans that need help. And that's what America's all about. We have to stay together and we have to realize that without us being united and doing things together, like I was talking to Carlo and Carlo said, well, we got to talk to somebody instead of writing a letter. Letters are not getting anywhere anymore. And we could see that. We could see that. We're very unhappy. We can see the world. We can see how it is. We see the crisis that we're in. And we could see it's not getting any better. You know, we could taste it. And it tastes just like duty. It doesn't taste nice to us anymore. The idea of the United States. And the people that, even in the voting system, they're not honest with the voting system anymore because look what they did to us. It's not fair. We're all fed up with this. But you got to understand, we got to have somebody take control over this. And I have a friend, a DNA agent that's retired. He told me a story. And these are really guys. He was at the wall with a full bird colonel at the wall that Trump put up for us. He said the first thing that Biden did was order the cameras taken off the wall. Take the cameras down. Let the people jump over the wall and bring us drugs and aggravation and hate and take over our country. That's what he wants. Well, I can't see how that could be a president of our United States of America. Our United States of America needs somebody who drives the wheel for us that we could say, wow, I'm proud to have him as an American president.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to get into that. But anyway, it's not right. And I hope the Republicans stay together and make the right man win for us.
Right. Well, I think people have to recognize that, as we said a few minutes ago, older generations have a responsibility. The kids have not been taught properly anymore. The education is failing to them. So we have an obligation to teach, to express, to tell the truth, to write, to speak up, and to do the things that are necessary while we're still alive to do. And in a way, that's why I created this show. That's why I wrote that book. So people will understand there's a message to be said. And it's our country. It's our world. We have an obligation to support and protect our children and grandchildren that are coming behind them. I'll never see them come to full life and know all those things. I'll be gone before that happens. If I can leave a legacy down, if I can do this much to change,
everybody.
There are 380 million of us that are Americans. Everyone does this much. That's 380 million times that happens. Everything is possible.
But when you say, let me just say, before you cut me off, this is so important. I got to bring this out. When you say protect, there's nothing more than an American wanting to protect our children, and especially our children in school. Now, you had Biden on there saying how sorry he was that this guy took guns and shot the poor kids in school in Texas and here, there, New Jersey, all over the place. But you got to remember, why do we send all our money somewhere else when we could buy more police protection, sheriffs? The sheriffs in Newport Richey, the way they take care of us, we are so proud of them. Our sheriff, Chris Noto, he wants to beg just to get new jails because they're doing such a good job. Him and his team are bringing all those guys, and we need more. And they say no to him. Why? Yeah. Because there's no money. But there is money to send to other countries. I'd rather us stay in our own country and take care of our own people, like have police in schools and the front exit and in the back exit every day, instead of spending that money somewhere else. Protect our children. That's the future of the United States of America.
I agree, Joe.
The next generation.
I agree. So we're coming down to the end. We're at 39 minutes, so we only have a few minutes left to close this out. Any last minute thing you'd like to say?
Well, I want to be very honest to myself. I'm one of the luckiest men in the world. I have a beautiful family. Thank you. There's somebody leaving the package at the door. I have a beautiful family. My wife is so good to me. She takes care of me. I am so blessed, like you are. The way your wife takes care of you, we can see that right there for you and everything you need. Well, my wife does that for me. I'm so blessed with that. Like I said before, I don't have a lot of luxuries, but I was never really hungry, really that much. So I'm content of what I have. And what I have to thank God for every day. And I have to thank the people that love me every day. Guys like you, Carlo. Guys like Bobby. Guys like everybody. All my friends. They're so right there for me, and I'm so proud of them. And my son and my daughter and everyone that is next to me. Jeremy, who lives in this house, so we could do this. All these people are so tuned to know that all I want from them is to realize that God is making their path. So no matter what you think of it, it's not up to us. No. It's not who we know, it's who knows us. And who knows us is God. God knows us. So he's the person that knows us. Do me a favor, God. Take care of this world. Take care of us because we need it. The American people are fed up with what's going on with this world. I'm very happy to say this for my last few words. I'm happy to be on your show. I was so content knowing that you let me be on your show. It means a lot to me. I love you, brother, more than anything that you know, and you'll always be my top gun. I'll be your wingman for the rest of my life.
I love you, Joe. I truly love you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching our show today. I know it's meaningful. I know you've heard some very, very important things today, some of it with humor, some of it heartfelt, but all of it with the purpose of saying we can make a difference in this world. If we do what is expected of us, we gather together, we can make a great difference in God's name. So I remind you, we come out with a new show every Wednesday morning. If you have somebody you'd like to recommend as a guest on the show, please do write in and let us know. And there's a very important statement that I must make to you that I do every week. And that is, tell your story. I know you have a story. Everybody has a unique story, and no one can tell it like you can. Tell it before it's too late. Tell your family, tell your friends, because when you're gone, it's gone. No one will know. No one will benefit from it. So I applaud you. And I tell you, as always, especially with my brother on the show, tell someone you love them today. And I love you today. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning into the show. I hope that it resonated with you. It certainly did with me. And I hope it encouraged you to realize the true power of your story. As a reminder, new episodes will be released Wednesday mornings on your favorite podcast apps and also on YouTube as well. Be sure to like, subscribe, and turn your notification button on to ensure that you receive updates on new episode releases. I'm grateful for your reviews and your support. The love is certainly felt. Keep it coming. You can reach out to connect with me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, or stop by my website, toeverypageofturning.com. All links are clickable in the show notes for quick access. Do you think that you or someone you know may be our most inspiring guest yet? Let's hope so. Click on our contact page and get in touch on my website and share your story. I look forward to reading each one personally. My best-selling book, To Every Page of Turning, which was published by Mascot Books, is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, and many more popular book retailers. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Till next time, remember that every day is a new opportunity to write your new page in your incredible journey. And it is incredible. You're the only one who has it.